Welcome to another deep dive edition of the Chicks on the Right podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us right from one of our most favorite sponsors, and that's My Patriot Supply. Joe Rieck, thank you so much for being with us. You're from My Patriot Supply, and we would love to hear the story of how it all began to kick us off, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, Amy, Joe, and Mock, thank you so much for having me on here. It is a pleasure to finally be on with you guys. So thank you for making the arrangements. My name is Joe Rieck. I'm Vice President of Sales here at My Patriot Supply. And to kind of tell you a little bit of the history of My Patriot Supply, we've been in business for about 15 years now. And believe it or not, we started in an apartment selling seeds. So survival seeds is kind of how we got our start. And over the course of the past, decade and a couple of years, we've grown into become America's largest emergency food storage provider here in the country. And we service hundreds of thousands of people with helping them get better prepared for whatever life may throw at them.
Wow. So where are you guys located?
So our headquarters are located here in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
And this is where we manufacture all of our long-term emergency food. It's all done right here in Salt Lake. And then we ship it out direct to our consumers. We also have a couple of distribution centers throughout the country as well. So we manufacture here in Salt Lake, and then we feed our distribution centers, and then it goes out from there.
Okay. And you guys have been in business for how long? How long have you been doing this?
For about 13 years now.
Wow. Okay.
13. But 13 years we've been in the emergency preparedness space. Like I said, it started selling survival seeds, and then it grew into more of a survival food. And then from there, it just kind of blossomed out to getting emergency supplies, emergency gear, anything that kind of deals with emergency survival, emergency preparedness. We are kind of your one-stop shop for that.
And have you seen
and on your website, because we talk about your emergency food kits all the time. But on your website, when you say that you've branched out into tons and tons of different disaster recovery, emergency preparedness stuff, you aren't kidding. Like, you have everything. So I'm curious, as somebody who is not necessarily a prepper, but who likes to be prepared, what do you recommend for someone who's just starting out, trying to make sure that they've got all their ducks in a row? What are the must-have things other than the emergency food and water?
Well, you kind of just hit the nail on the head right there. There's three basic items that we always try to recommend to people who are looking to get better prepared or who want to just kind of be ready for whatever may throw at them. And there's three basic needs that you need to cover: food, shelter, and water. And I guess there could be a fourth one, would be heat. You need to have those elements available. Otherwise, you're not going to survive very long. And so at My Patriot Supply, we have all of those areas covered with our long-term emergency food. We also have water purification products available. So if you live anywhere close to a body of water, whether it's a stream, a lake, a river, a pond, you can filter that water and have clean water to prepare for your meals, for drinking, for whatever you might need your water for. We also have, fire starter tools available. We just barely came out with an amazing product. It's a self-powered heater that doesn't require any electricity to run on. It's not run off of solar powered, but it is an amazing little product that we just barely launched a few weeks ago. Yeah. And of course, you're going to want to make sure that you have shelter. And so we have different items for protecting yourself, whether if you're going to be out in the forest or, hunkering down in your home. You've got to make sure that you have that shelter, because you have to provide a place of security for you and your family.
I think it's interesting because Mock's like, I'm not a prepper, but I like to be prepared. So my next question for you is going to be, have you seen your customer base change? Because obviously you guys have grown, right, over the past 13 years. But I guess I would consider myself more of a prepper than her, but people, I don't know if people are just hesitant to say, I'm a prepper, or if you've just seen over the past 13 years, like a morphing of your client base, and people in the suburbs are starting to prep. People who, suburban moms and stuff like that are starting to prep more and be more into looking at this stuff online and being actively prepared for disasters and for emergency situations and things that maybe they wouldn't have been prepared for even, 5 to 7 years ago. I'm just curious if you've seen a different, like a change, a morphing of your customer base over the past several years.
100%. And that's a great question because, again, when you think about emergency preparedness, 10 years ago, you would be considered one of the crazies. You'd be considered one of those guys, one of those little cuckoo guys that believe, there's conspiracies, the government's out to get you. you got to get your guns, your Bible, and your emergency food. You would be considered one of those crazies, However, over the last several years, people's minds and people's idea of what it means to be prepared really has changed, and now you're almost crazy not to. Based on what's happening in the world right now, whether it's geopolitical items, whether it's natural disasters, or whether it's job loss or, anything like that, it affects people every single day. Over the past 2 years, though, I would say that it has tremendously increased, our group of customers. We are a lot more diverse than we used to be 10 years ago. And I really have a feeling that it deals with, we all went through COVID together.
Right.
That was a global catastrophe. And everybody was affected to that, from the lockdowns to the food shortages to the infamous toilet paper shortages.
Yes.
It affected everybody. And what that did is it opened up everybody's minds that, hey, if this is happening to me here in suburbia or here in Salt Lake City, Utah, or wherever you may be, and I am forced to stay in my home and I can only have a certain amount of groceries that I can go to the grocery store and purchase, I need to take the situation into my own hands. And that's kind of what has happened over the past couple of years, where people have really started to dive into this, and they are becoming more and more independent, if that makes sense, that they know that the responsibility is going to be on them to take care of them and their families. And you can't rely on the government anymore. And we've seen that over the course of the past natural disasters where, we had Hurricane Ian just a few weeks ago, and believe it or not, people are still trying to dig themselves out and still try to get their lives back up to normal. And the government just doesn't respond as quickly as we intend them to be, because nobody is going to worry more about your safety and survival than yourself. And nobody's going to come out and get you. And that's the sad reality of it. So you have to be the one that's putting forth the effort. You have to go be the one that's worrying about your own survival.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody that says, well, I can do it on my own. I can go buy canned goods and I can do this and that. And instead of buying a bucket of food that's pre-made or customizable for me, because a lot of the stuff that you do can be customized or whatever, I can go buy, some bulk food on my own. So I can just do that. I don't need you guys. What would you say to that person?
Hey, get started. Get started one way or the other. I do think it is a good idea to have a variety of different items in your home, because when you really think about emergency preparedness, it's multifaceted. There are many different layers, levels of emergency preparedness. I mean, depending on where you live and depending on how you grew up, it depends on what you feel that you might need for survival. And so I think it's smart. I think it's great to go to the grocery store and buy a couple of extra cans of the Campbell's soup, buy a couple of extra, packages of the rice or of the noodles. The difference is you have to use that. Otherwise, it's going to go bad.
Right.
And so I think it's also important to have a food supply that you can put it away, and you can literally forget about it. And it'll be there when you need it. And that's the beauty of the stuff that we have here at My Patriot Supply. It's the long-term food storage. So you can sit down, you can get what you need, you can get it, put it away, and you can have that peace of mind that regardless of what happens, that you're going to be able to take care of you and your family. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's pretty much priceless.
Yeah. And the long term is 25 years, right? That's
25 years. Right. 25 years. You get it, you put it away and forget about it. But here's the other thing that a lot of people don't think about too, is the way that these meals are prepared. So I understand that people like to go to the grocery store. They like to cook. They like to prepare everything else. Our meals, number one, they taste phenomenal. They taste amazing. They're great. But the simplicity to make these meals, all you're doing is adding it to boiling water. As long as you don't burn the water, your meal's going to turn out great. Yeah. So just don't burn the water.
Yeah. I mean, and they're meals too. They're legit meals, which is
meals like spaghetti, pasta Alfredo, traveler stew, chili macaroni and cheese. These are meals that we would eat on a regular basis. Yeah. Especially kids love this stuff.
Yep.
And as a parent, and I never really understood this until I was a parent, how important it is to get food that your kids eat. My little girl, when I first got started in this, and I've been doing this for about 15 years, is, I got home and I'm like, honey, we're going to try some emergency food. My little girl, bless her heart, I love her to death. She's 15 now, but when she was 3 years old, when she was 3 or 2 years old, we made her some of our emergency food. And I made my little self a bowl, and I made her a little bowl, and we started to eat it together. And I don't want to sound cheesy when I say this, but I never understood the power of this until I became a dad. When my little girl ate her food and she looked up at me and she handed me her bowl and she said, "More, Dad."
Yeah.
My heart sank. And the reason why it sank was because of this. Because if we were involved in an emergency or a disaster, I don't want my kids to know what we're going through.
Right.
And they don't need to know what's going on. Because at that point in time, all they need to know is they have a nice warm meal, they have safety, they have shelter, and they have their family there.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that's when I knew that, okay, I'm in the right industry. And this is something that I became super passionate about. And everybody here at My Patriot Supply is just as equally passionate about making sure that people are prepared and that we have a product that can stand up to what we say that it does.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
You mentioned, give me a chance. I want to say, I have to get this question out because I'll forget it. Because you mentioned the whole heating thing, like the cool new gadget that you had. So I'm really interested in that, but I also want to know what other cool gadgetry you have. I know there's so many cool things on the website. What do you think is some of the trickiest stuff that you have out there, especially for the guys who love the cool gadgets, right?
Let me show you this.
I want to see.
I have it right here. So this is the new Vesta heater. Okay.
Yeah, I need to understand.
So this is a self-powered space heater, essentially. Okay. Now this thing is super cool. It is powered by our canned heat supply. So it's a little canister of fuel that you essentially burn. And what you do is you place those canned heats inside of this little spot right here. It's kind of hard to tell. And you close it shut. And then if you just wanted to cook your meals, you can be able to boil your water. You put your pan right on top of here. It'll boil your water. It'll cook your meals. But then let's say, for instance, it's wintertime and you want to heat up your room. The heat generated from those canned heats will power this fan. And this fan is powered by the heat that is generated from those cans. And you simply place this up on top of your heater. Snap it shut. And now you have a portable space heater.
How long does it last? The little fuel packet thingies.
You can have it.
I'm very technical.
6 hours. 6 hours. It's called canned heat, and you can run 2 of them. If you want more heat, you can run 3 of them, and it'll burn continuously for up to 6 hours. So if you want heat, there you go. If you're outside camping or whatever.
Are people buying them for tailgates? I would buy it for a tailgate.
You know what? We're actually selling out of these so fast. We made them and we've sold out of them within a few days because they are so popular to get.
Yeah.
So
those are
if
awesome.
you can get your hands on them right now, I would definitely do it. And it makes a great Christmas gift.
Yeah, it does.
And all these little cool gadgets. The other cool gadget that I have that I wanted to show you guys here is a little power bank. These things are the solar power banks. These things are so handy to have. Okay. How many of us run around with our cell phones that always end up dying during the middle of the day when we're at our sporting events or wherever we may be? You take this little puppy with you, you plug in your cell phone, it'll charge up your cell phone. If you don't have a power supply, because that solar panel right there, leave it outside, it'll charge up the battery so then you can charge your cell phone. And
do you just put it on top of it? How does that work?
No, you can plug in your cords.
Oh, you're plugging it in. Okay.
Yeah, you can plug it in, or you can set your mobile phone on top of here, and it will charge that way as well without having a cord hooked up to it.
Gotcha.
How long does it take for the sun to charge that? Like, how long does it take for the sun to fully charge that?
It'll take a few hours for the sun to charge the batteries inside of this.
That is
remarkable. It has a bright LED light on there too as well. Super, super handy to have. Super handy.
Wow.
In fact, do you remember last year in Texas when they had the ice storm?
Yep.
These things, I can't tell you. Okay, here's another thing that I love about what we do. Okay, and again, I don't mean to get all sentimental. I'm a very sensitive guy, so excuse me if I get teary-eyed. But whenever there is an emergency or a natural disaster, we get flooded. And I mean flooded with letters from customers who are writing us. And we got so many letters when the ice freeze happened in Texas, because Texas is a place that normally doesn't get freezing temperatures.
Right, exactly.
They knocked out their power grids. People were without power. People who had this item right there was a lifesaver, because they could charge their cell phones with it That way they can still be in communication with their family. They can still get the weather updates. They can get whatever they needed from their cell phones, but they still have the ability to power their cell phones with this little device right here.
That's huge.
It's simple. It's these little things that make a world of difference. And so there's an acronym that I learned in college called KISS, right? You guys heard that.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Simple.
Silly.
You can say stupid here.
Okay.
You can say
stupid.
Right.
But that is the approach that I recommend to all the customers that call in to say, gosh, Joe, what do I do? I don't know what I need to get to be prepared. And I just say, well, keep it simple. And this is what I would recommend to your audience and to all your viewers and who tune in is if you're wanting to get prepared, keep it simple. Look at how many people you need to provide food for, and then you can determine how long of a supply you want to have. Whether that supply is 3 days, whether that supply is a week, or whether that supply is an entire year, it's completely up to you and your family to determine what it is that you guys need. Because there's not just a one-size-fits-all package for everybody. Every family is going to have different needs, different dietary restrictions, lengths of time that they want emergency food, different items that they want. And so if you keep it simple, you can come up with a plan. And we have agents here that are standing by to answer phone calls that can help answer those questions. They can come up with a plan that fits the specific need of you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a great point because there's so many people that have different risk factors depending where they are in the country. I'm going to be moving to hurricane land in the next couple years, and I'm sure that that's a whole different. Yeah, for sure. That I have to get the charger thing.
I've got to get one of those too.
That's a whole different set of circumstances than somebody who's at risk of, I don't know, being like having an active volcano shower lava on them, for example. You know what I mean? It's different for everybody.
That's a fantastic point. And what I will say to this too is, depending on your geographical location, yes, that does matter. However, emergencies are not limited to natural disasters. Let's say, for instance, mom or dad, they get sick and they can't go to work anymore, and they can't provide food, or their income was significantly damaged and it got cut in half and they can't provide what they need to provide. Does that situation not qualify that family for an emergency as well?
Yes, exactly.
Of course it does. And so you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what life is going to throw at you. But what you can do is you can take the time to get prepared. You can take a look at the things that you and your family need, and you can put a list down together. If it's not a 3-day supply, get a couple of extra day supplies at the grocery store. Do something, because again, like I said before, nobody's going to care more about your survival than yourself.
Yeah.
You got to do the work, you got to do the research, and you got to put the effort forth to do it.
I think it's also a great thing. Like, my mother is elderly. She doesn't like to refer to herself as that, but she lives alone. And this is the kind of stuff that I always worry about her, because she's very, very independent, but she likes to live alone. She likes her autonomy, but at the same time, it's like, this would be a great thing for her just to get that 30-day food supply for her, just in case something happens. For her. So, because I know she has stuff and, she's canned goods and stuff like that, but she's not fully prepared if something happens, and she's by herself. And so as a family member, it is something like we need to look out for our older family members, our elderly family members. And it's a perfect opportunity to do that, is to think about My Patriot Supply and what we can do for them. Yeah.
And
exactly.
This is another cool thing too. In fact, these are one of what our pouches look like of food. So this is our cheesy broccoli and rice soup. This is what's really neat too, because a lot of these emergency food companies, their packaging is completely different than ours. We use a 4 mil Mylar pouch, so it's super, super rugged, super, super durable. But here we have a built-in zipper. So you mentioned that your mother who lives alone, she's not going to need to eat all this contents of this food. She's not going to have four servings of food of chili broccoli. She may only need 1 serving. So all she would need to do is rip open this tab, pour out what she wants, and then she can Ziploc it. There's a Ziploc built right inside of this pouch. So then she can put it away, and whenever she's ready to come back to it within the next, 2 weeks or whatever, it's there.
She can. That's
Unlike
a great
those
point.
big number 10 size cans, that has kind of been your traditional emergency food storage. So
that's such a great point.
More convenient for families, for smaller families, for individuals, and even for larger families. You get 2 of these, put them in a pot of boiling water, stir that for 10 to 15 minutes. They're going to have dinner ready for you guys in minutes.
Yeah. You guys thought of everything.
We've tried, but here's the thing. There's always stuff we can do better. We always got to be improving, and that's kind of our motto here at My Patriot Supply is, how can we make this better? How can we make this more affordable for everybody? And that was another thing that My Patriot Supply really paved the way for is, 10, 15 years ago, emergency food was expensive. It was costly. There was very few manufacturers of this product. And now we've been able to manufacture this ourselves and provide it at a price that is super reasonable for families. In fact, I would probably bet our product is probably a lot more affordable than going to the grocery store and feeding your family.
Especially right now.
Especially right now. Absolutely.
Lord knows. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's why we're so proud to endorse My Patriot Supply. It's why we're so proud to have you guys as sponsors of our show. Joe, we really, really appreciate your time with us today and for telling us all the cool stuff, especially the heater. That's so neat. Thank you so much.
Our food kits are phenomenal. I think we give it a special discount to you guys as audience. So please visit the link that is provided by your website. Get what you need to get, but get it now because I'm going to tell you, things are not very good out there. We're sitting on a cornucopia of things that could go wrong. We have what's going on in Europe with the Ukraine and the Russia situation. We have Putin rattling his saber, threatening to launch a nuclear weapon. We have, sky high inflation here in the United States. We're coming up on a diesel shortage here too.
Yeah,
and
we are.
Let me tell you, that is something to be paying attention to.
Yes, it is.
If we end up having those shortages here, our entire economy will shut down. Everything is dependent upon that diesel fuel, those trucks on the road. And gosh, thank you so much for our truckers for putting in the hours and for working so hard, because without those truckers doing their job, we wouldn't have the food in our groceries. And so
amen to that.
Time to get prepared, because we have a lot of stuff on the forefront that if we're not careful and if we're not paying attention to those signs, we're going to be left out in the cold.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
Okay, well, I hate to put us all on a down note with that.
It's true. It's true though. Joe's right.
I hate to do it, but that's the thing.
It's necessary.
Again, nobody's going to worry about your survival than yourself.
That's right.
I have to say,
take the initiative.
It's so interesting how you're such a happy guy in an industry where it's all about there's a lot of doom and gloom. There's got to be some doom and gloom. You got to tell people, listen, this could happen, that can happen, this horrible thing can happen. But you're such a happy guy,
Well, I'll say this. Yes, in fact, my wife, bless her heart, I would come home from work and be like, honey, this is what's coming on. This is what's going on. She says, Joe, stop talking to me about it. I don't want to hear about it. So, but here's the thing. I am passionate about what we do. Everybody here loves what we do. And again, I mentioned getting those letters from families, those letters from people saying, thank you so much, because literally our products saved their lives. And if it weren't for our product, they wouldn't be here. And that's the reason why we keep doing what we're doing. And
it's fantastic.
Honestly, I love what I do, and it's such a fun place to be, and I'm happy to help people out as much as I can.
It's great.
Well, and it shows. Great. Joe Rieck from My Patriot Supply, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.